Hello friends, welcome to GCA. I hope you all are doing good. So today's video is based on the regimental series which I have started few days ago, and this is going to be my third video in the regimental series. And before that I have made two videos. One is regarding the mechanized infantry and second is regarding the artillery regiment. And if you have not watched those videos, the link is available in the I button. So today's video is regarding the armored corps, which is basically known as the tank regiment of the Indian Army. And in this video, I'm going to cover up everything like the role of the armored corps, the structure of the armored corps, thereby the major battles fought by the armored corps and the equipment held with the armored corps and the modernization plan, and finally the most important thing, who all can join the armored corps, that is the tank regiments of the Indian Army. And this video is very important for those who want to be a part of armored corps or either their father is in the armored corps, because when you mention this in the SSB, the question related to this will definitely be asked. So I can assure you that after watching this video, you will be able to answer every question. So again, without wasting any time, let us start. So let us first discuss the role of the armored corps. So the main role of the armored corps is to deliver firepower with speed at desired place, and it is basically a combat arm of the Indian Army that fights front to front with the enemy. And another role is it provides shock effect to the enemy. For example, unlike artillery that is only stable at one position and it's keep on firing heavy round, but in case of armored corps there is one more feature, that is the mobility. Like while on the move it keeps on firing and it runs over enemy position, and finally by providing the shock effect to the enemy it lowers their morale. And like infantry is called as the queen of the battlefield and artillery is called as the god of war, armored corps is called as the king of the battlefield. And armored corps is followed by mechanized infantry, and along with it there is infantry. So this is about the role of armored corps. Now let us see the basic information about the armored corps. So the armored corps is known as the modern day cavalry because it has acquired its root from the erstwhile cavalry, and cavalry is basically the soldiers that used to fight on the horses in the past times. So that is why still it is following the traditions and the ethos of the erstwhile cavalry even after for replacing the tanks with the horses. So that is why it is known as the modern day cavalry. Now every year the armored corps day is celebrated on 1st of May, because there is a reason behind this. Because on the 1st of May in 1938 the Indian Armored Corps, they replaced their horses with the tanks and the complete mechanization of the forces was done. So that is why every year 1st of May is celebrated as the Indian Armored Corps Day. And the first regiment to shed horses was the 14 horse. So Armored Corps School and Center is at Ahmednagar, Maharashtra. So this is basically the place where the officers after getting commissioned, they go for training for younger officer course for first 6 months. And even the recruits, basically the soldiers, they go for training in the Armored Corps School and Center, and it is the regimental center. And along with the Armored Corps Center and School, there is very famous place in Ahmednagar, which is the Cavalry Tank Museum. So which contain everything like the, we can say the encyclopedia about the tanks which are used by the Indian Army. So that is, if you have chance to visit Ahmednagar, do visit this place. This place is open for general public also. Before independence, that is during the British Army days, there were total of 18 regiments in the Armored Corps, and after the partition of British India into India and Pakistan, 1/3 of the regiments were shifted to Pakistan and we were left with only 2/3 of the regiment, that is only 12 regiments. And presently there are total of 67 regiments including the President's bodyguard that is responsible for providing security and escorting our president. And Armored Corps regiments have unique names like Cavalry, Lancer, Horses, and these are still continue to maintain the legacy of regiments. It means there is, although there is no difference between the word cavalry, lancer and horses, it is basically in today's world it is basically all the three words are used to represent that these are the regiments which are equipped with the tanks. But in order to maintain the legacy, we are still carrying this name. And the modern days regiment, that is which are now raised after the independence, these are called as the armored regiment. For example, the 75th Armored Regiment, 88th Armored Regiment, 90th Armored Regiment. Similarly, in the erstwhile regiments like 7th Cavalry, 8th Cavalry, 14 Horse, 17 Pune Horse, although the names are different, but the role is same, that is these are the regiments that are equipped with tanks. Now let us see the structure of the Armored Corps. So the Armored Corps is commanded by an officer in the rank of Colonel, and each regiment is further subdivided into 3 squadrons, that is Alpha, Bravo and Charlie, and along with it there is one headquarters squadron. And an armored regiment consists of around 45 to 50 tanks, and each squadron consists of 14 to 15 tanks, and 3 tanks are held by the headquarters squadron, which is the squadron of commanding officer, that is the colonel of the regiment. The squadron is commanded by an officer in the rank of major, which is known as the squadron commander, and each squadron is further divided into troops, which is commanded by young officer. So Armored Corps have a very unique distinction of wearing the black beret. Unlike the other arms and services which wear for these arms which wear green beret, and for the services which wear dark blue, Armored Corps have unique distinction of wearing the black beret, and along with it they also wear black dangari while operating the tanks. Although mechanized infantry also wear the black dangari. So the rank structure of Armored Corps is also different, like they follow the similar legacy, although it is not completely different, but some ranks are different. For example, like in others, the Havaldar rank in Armored Corps is called as Dafedar. Similarly, Subedar rank in Armored Corps is called as Risaldar, and Subedar Major in Armored Corps is called as the Risaldar Major. Now let us see some famous regiments of the Armored Corps. So the first regiment is 14 Horse, and this is very important because this was the first regiment to shed their horses when the complete mechanization was done. Then the 16th Cavalry, the oldest armored regiment. Then there is 63rd Cavalry, it is called as the Ghost Regiment, and for this I have already made a video. If you want to see, you can click on the link. Then the 75th Armored Corps, because this is the first regiment which is to be raised on foreign soil, and also this regiment is equipped with Arjun Tank. And here I have not mentioned in the slide, but let me tell you, the 43rd Armored Regiment is the first regiment that was provided with Arjun Tanks. But the most decorated regiment out of these regiment is the 17th Pune Horse, which is called as the bravest of the brave. That is, it is even referred by Pakistan as the Fakr-e-Hind, that is the honor of India, because this regiment has always proved its mettle in every war. And even today we have two Paramveer Chakras from the Armored Corps, and these are from the same regiment. That first was in 1965 war, that was Lieutenant Colonel A.B. Tarapur from the 17th Pune Horse in the Battle of Chaibanda, and then second was in the 1971 Indo-Pakistan War by Second Lieutenant Arun Khetarpal, and that was in the Battle of Basantar. So this is about the famous regiments. Now let us discuss in brief something about Major Tanks battle. Although the Armored Corps has displayed its mettle in every war, but the main role of it came into prominence in 1965 India-Pakistan operation and 1971 Indo-Pakistan War. And in 1965 Indo-Pakistan War, major battles were fought. For example, the Battle of Philora, Battle of Asal-Uttar, and Battle of Chaibanda. And it was the Battle of Chaibanda where the Lieutenant Colonel A.B. Tarapur was awarded the Paramveer Chakra. Then the Battle of Asal-Uttar was the major success for India, because in that war, Indian Army destroyed more than 100 tanks of Pakistan, which was the world-class tanks of US origin, which were supplied to them. And the tanks that were destroyed in the region of Khemkaran in Punjab, and that region today is known as the Patan Nagar, you can see in the photo. And now I request you to please watch the videos related to these war from YouTube. This will be very helpful for you to know the valor of our forces. Then there was a Battle of Basantar in 1971 Indo-Pakistan operation, and this is also a major operation, and because in that regiment the 17th Pune Horse again played a major role, and Second Lieutenant Arun Khetarpal was awarded the Paramveer Chakra. Then apart from major operations, it has participated in other operations like Operation Woodrose against Sikh extremism in Punjab, then Operation Blue Star, Operation Pavan in Sri Lanka, and similarly it has maintained its role in serving the United Nations peacekeeping missions, mainly in the Lebanon, and also it is participating in Russia for joint exercises. So thereby this is about the major tanks battles of India. And over the years, regiment has given top class officers. For example, there are total of 4 army chiefs from this regiment. You can read it out from here. For example, the first is General Maharaj Rajendra Sena Jadeja ji, who was the first army chief during the 1950s. Then there was General Arun Kumar Shridhar Vaidya, then General Vishwanath Sharma, and General Bipin Chandra Joshi. So these are the army chiefs which Armored Corps has produced. Now let us see the equipment held with the Armored Corps. Now let us first see the various equipments used by Indian Armored Corps in the previous decades. So as I already said, in 1938 the mechanization of the forces was done, like the tanks were replaced with horses. So the first mass-produced armored vehicle built in India was the ACV Indian pattern, which was built in 1940. Then till 1960, the bulk of the armored vehicles and tanks, they came from Great Britain. Then we started acquiring tanks from Soviet Union. So the firstly from Great Britain we included the armored car like Ferret, which is now discarded, and then we have acquired Centurion tank, which played a major role in 1965 and 71 operation. Then the Centurions were replaced by Vijayanta tank, which is basically the first main battle tank in India, and which was used until mid 80s. Then like I have already mentioned, along with Britain we have acquired equipment from Soviet Union, like we acquired T55 tank in 1960, and followed by light tank which was PT-76 tank, then the armored car like BTR-50, BTR-60, and armored personal carriers like BMT and BR-TMs. Then the Vijayanta tank, which is the first main battle tank of India, designed in 1960 as a lighter Centurion in cooperation with the Vickers, and now it is still referred to as Vickers Mark II. Today the Vijayanta tank is used for training purposes and also in the museum for exhibition. Then the tanks were used in 1965 and 1971 were Centurion tanks and Sherman tanks. The Centurion tanks were from Britain, and the Sherman tanks, which were Sherman M4 tanks, they were from US. And Shermans were gradually replaced by Vijayanta in the early mid 90s. Now let us move to the current equipment that is held with us. So presently we have three major tanks, the T-72 and T-90 tanks, which are of Russian origin, and their Indian version of T-72 is called Ajaya tank, and the T-90 is called Bhishma, and finally the most important, the Arjun tank, which is the indigenously developed tank. So the bulk of the Indian main battle tank today is provided by the T-72, which is the Ajaya, and we have more than 24 tanks, and it is basically produced by Russia and Poland. And along with it we have T90 Bhishma, which is of Russian origin, then the Arjun tanks, which is the indigenously produced tank. So we started to develop the indigenously tank, and the development of the Arjun tank started in 1974, but it took 30 years, like it was completed in 2004. And but even after completion, Indian Army was not happy with the Arjun tank. There were many glitches in the tank, and because of which Indian Army at the started was not happy with this tank, but later on it came up with certain changes, and it came up with 93 upgrades, and 248 Arjun tanks are now in service. And the first regiment to be equipped with Arjun tank was 43 Armoured Regiment, and the second is the 75th Armoured Regiment. And today the Indian Army has also ordered the Arjun Mark II, that is the latest version of Arjun tank, which is for which order of 124 have already been placed, and very soon we are going to have this tank on our infantry. Now let us see some technical details about these tanks, very short technical details, because questions related to this can be asked in the SSB. Now many a time question is asked in the SSB, like tell me the range of particular tank. For example, one of my friend was asked in Allahabad, what is the range of Arjun tank? So it is better to know certain small features about these tanks, because there are only three tanks which are majorly used now. So let us see first about T-72 tank. So T-72 tank has weight of around 42 tons, and it has a range of 460 km, and it has an engine of capacity 760 bhp, that is the brake horsepower. And the only issue with T-72 tank is there is no capability of firing missile. Now let us see something about T-90 tank. So T-90 tank is slightly heavier than T-72 tank. It has a weight of 47 tons, but it has a more range as compared to T-72 tank, that is 550 km per hour, and it has a speed of 60 km, and its engine is more than the T-72 tank, that is of 1000 bhp capacity. But the best thing about T-90 tank is the TI side, that is it is a night enabled tank. It can even fight during the night also, and this is the world's best main battle tank, because it can even survive the effect of biological and chemical weapons, and this is widely used across the world. And this is the major, we can say the major mainstay of the Indian Army. And even during the recent standoff with China in the Ladakh sector, we have deployed T-90 tanks. Now let us see some features of Arjun tank. Talking about Arjun, it is a very heavier tank. It has a weight of 60 tons, but despite having heavier weight, its speed is 70 km per hour, and it has a range of 450 km, and it is the most powerful tank in the Indian inventory, because it has an engine of 1400 bhp as compared to other tanks. It is almost double the capacity of T-72 tank. Now very soon we are going to have the upgraded version of Arjun, which is named as Arjun Mark II, and it is going to be lighter tank, and it will have speed of 58 km per hour and range of 400 km per hour. So another area from which question can be asked, like what are the major weapons used in tank? So basically there are three major weapons. The first is the main smoothbore gun. For example, the gun which you can see in your photo, the biggest gun on the turret. So this is basically the main gun which is used for engaging longer targets. Then there is 7.6 mm coaxial gun for engaging infantry. You can see the gun on the top of main gun, that is the that is the coaxial gun. And then finally the 12.7 mm commander's MMG, which is basically for countering the ground and the air target. So these are the three major weapons that are equipped in tank. Now another area from which question can be asked, like what are the rounds used by the tanks? So the rounds most commonly used by tanks are high explosive anti-tank, which is the heat, then high explosive, which is HE, then high explosive squash head, which is HESH, and high explosive frag, which is high fragmentation, and finally the APF SDS, which is the armor piercing fin stabilized discarding sabot. So these are the rounds used by tanks. And another area from which question can be asked is name the parts, the various parts of tank. For example, interviewing officer can ask tell me 5 parts of tank. Now let us see the parts of tanks. So the major parts of military tank include hull. Hull is basically the major part of the tank, which contains the engine compartment, the area where the driver sits. Then turret. Turret is basically the main portion where the weapon is deployed. For example, you can see the bigger portion, this is turret. Then the cupola. Cupola is basically the part of tank from which the cruise enters into the tank. Then there is track, also known as the caterpillar tracks. Then there is optical periscope, road wheel, driving sprocket. Then there is main gun, coaxial gun, commander MMG, and engine compartment. So this is enough. If you are able to answer even 5 to 6 parts, this will be good. Now let us see the modernization plan of the Armored Corps. So talking about the modernization plan of the Armored Corps, we all are aware that we are now facing the threat of two-front war, and the only option with us to deal with the two-front war is to modernize our armed forces. So thereby in last many years we are taking efforts for modernizing our armed forces. So talking about the modernization plan of the army, that is in the Armored Corps, the army is now planning to upgrade the indigenous Arjun tank and to induct the Arjun Mark II with variants like which we have already discussed, that the new version of the Arjun tank is coming up with a lot of upgrades as Arjun Mark II. The upgrades include the improved night fighting capabilities, enhanced ability to fire anti-tank missile, then 120 main gun, advanced air gun, and automatic target tracking, which will improve the accuracy of firing on moving target, and superior laser warning control system. So this is about the modernization plan of the Armored Corps. Now let us see the major question that is asked by many candidates, that is how they can join the Armored Corps or who are eligible to join the Armored Corps. Basically the candidates who are going through non-technical entries like NCC entry, CDS entry, NDA entry, they are eligible to join the Armored Corps. But in the recent years, even the technical graduates are given the option of joining even the combat arms, for example infantry, mechanized infantry, Armored Corps, and many technical graduates have opted for the Armored Corps. But for this, the Armored Corps, Armored Corps is the most difficult, I can say, the arm to get, because it is the most prestigious arm and there are very less vacancies. So in order to get Armored Corps, you need to be higher in the merits. So even if you are from technical entry or any other entry, the only thing which you should consider is you should focus on getting higher merit in the training at OTA. So if you are having higher merit and if there is a vacancy in a regiment, then you will get Armored Corps. So friends, this is all about the Armored Corps, and I have tried my best to cover everything about Armored Corps in a very short span of time, and I hope you got to know everything about the Armored Corps. And I can assure you that if you watch this video again and again, then you don't have to look after anything related to the Armored Corps. Even you just watch this video for 2 times, you will be able to know everything in detail. So friends, this is all about today. Thank you very much for watching this video, and yes, like in the regimental series, I will continue to make this video, and the next video I will make on your demand. Tell me in the comment section on which arm or service you want a detailed video. Then on the maximum number of comments on a particular regiment, that is on arm or service, I will make video on that regiment. So till then, best of luck and keep preparing, and God bless you all. Thank you.